What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today we've got a bunch more Destiny 2 things to talk about. Not leaks this time, some official info that came out from Bungie directly, and it's a bunch of interesting stuff about the future of Destiny, changing weapon elements, private matches, even some info about a very popular exotic we all know and love. So again, this information is officially from Bungie, Luke Smith directly, and I'll be discussing and rounding up all the most important bits of this interview. So the first thing I found interesting was Luke talking about Bungie's intentions and how they place little hints in the game as to where the future is likely to go. He said how they knew from day one they were going to make this game about the Cabal, and then he mentioned the outbound signal mission from the Taken King and how it directly teased the events of Destiny 2 with that massive Cabal response unit that was on the way. He was also asked if the Vex play a large role in this game, and he said the Vex doesn't play a specific role in the main war of Destiny 2, but while you're playing the game, we are going to be pointing at places we're going next. So what Luke is saying is that whatever's in store for the Vex, Bungie's placed some hints like the outbound signal that's going to tell us what's going to happen. So if, for example, we end up going to like a Vex homeworld or something crazy happens, there will be hints inside Destiny 2. So when the game launches, definitely worth looking around to try and find any hints or secrets, because Bungie will be placing some kind of outbound signal type things that hint at what we'll be doing with the Vex in the future, and I'm sure the other races as well. So he then talked about these stats on specific characters, and he said they made the stat ranges matter more in Destiny 2. So people apparently after the first console beta said they didn't feel as fast as in Destiny 1, so now not only does it not matter what class you play as to have armor, recovery or agility, but he said you can make specific builds to focus on one of those things if you want to. He also mentioned there is a build where you can make a race car Warlock, which is apparently super fast, for example. So if you do want to make a really quick character or really high armored one, really high recovery, it doesn't matter, Hunter, Titan or Warlock, you can make each build with each character now. So I'm definitely really happy with this because the Hunter always annoyed me how you can never have that high armor or recovery, especially recovery, that was always really low, and it was always about agility, which really was a bad perk in Destiny 1, it didn't do much. I'm not sure if they've improved agility to make it a little bit better this time around. So if you want to, you can make a Hunter with maxed out armor or maxed out recovery, which of course wasn't possible in Destiny 1. So next up, he talked about power weapons. Now, he said that fusion rifles were a bit strong inside the beta, so since they've turned them down slightly and also buffed the other power weapons in the category, so they've reduced the amount of sniper flinch a little bit, they've also reduced the amount that snipers sway, and they've increased the amount of rocket launcher damage against the monsters, so PvE is talking about, which I think was definitely needed. Rockets were pretty garbage in both PvE and PvP in my opinion, and he didn't mention grenade launchers, but I also think those definitely need a buff. So he then pointed to the model of the dubious volley next to him and finally said the name of this weapon, which actually turns out to be the Wardif Coil, even though everyone knows it as the dubious volley, but the Wardif Coil is its real name. Now, fun fact on the topic of this weapon, but the reason people call it dubious volley is actually unintentionally because of me. A long time ago, I was the first to make a video on this weapon and gave it the nickname dubious volley because of the names of its perks. And I clearly said in the video that's not its real name, but despite that, over time, everyone just kept calling it the dubious volley, the name stuck, and I always found it pretty funny, but now we have its real name, it's the Wardif Coil. So thankfully, you can stop calling it the dubious volley. That was literally just a nickname I made up for it a long time ago. So next up, something really cool is that you can actually change the elements of weapons now. So he said not all weapons and not exotics, for example, but the mod slot, you can take that and swap it. So you can change around the element. This wasn't actually confirmed before. It did make the most sense, so a lot of us assumed it would be the case. But now we know for sure you can swap the elements. Now, he mentioned an example where if the Nightfall for one given week has a bunch of Cabal enemies with solar shields, you can then take your favorite weapon and then swap it to be solar if it wasn't already. So he didn't actually mention anything about a solar burn modifier on the Nightfall, just if there were enemies with those solar shields. So we still don't know if Nightfalls or anything in Destiny 2 will have modifiers of solar, arc, or void burn. We've seen other modifiers, but we still don't know exactly if elemental burns exist. So next up is private matches. Someone asked him if they'll be added soon after launch in an update. Bungie previously alluded to this but couldn't confirm anything, but now Luke Smith said they still can't confirm when they'll come out, and the team is working on a big list of features they want to add just after launch. Of course, private matches is on that list, we'll have to see when they actually arrive. By the sounds of it, they definitely want to add them into the game, so it's not going to be a case of if it will happen, it's definitely going to be happening, but it's just a question of how many weeks or months after launch. So he then talks about having a PTR, which we talked about in a recent video in an AMA with Bungie and IGN. But if you don't know what a PTR is, it's basically a test build for the public to play and test new patches and content early before it's released to absolutely everyone else. And this helps because they can test the content, improve it, and polish it more to make sure it's better before the time the rest of the community gets their hands on it. So he said previously they were unsure, but now in this interview, Luke said he likes the idea of people not knowing everything that's in the game before it comes out. So in other words, it doesn't sound like he likes the idea of a PTR, and new content being spoiled on a PTR, because people would basically be playing it early access. So it's looking very unlikely for Destiny 2 at least. So he was also asked, what weapon are you going to miss the most from Destiny 1? Now, Luke's very emotional answer was the Fatebringer from the Templar and the Vault of Glass, of course, and he said he's going to miss that weapon forever. So by that answer, we can know for certain that the Fatebringer is definitely not going to be coming back. No Fatebringer 2.0, no remake in Destiny 2, because it's never ever going to return according to Luke Smith. So someone asked if Cade 6 is going to have a much bigger part to play inside Destiny 2, and he said obviously compared to Destiny 1 he does have a much bigger role, but compared to the scale of Destiny 2 he is about the same as Akora and Zavala, the rest of the Vanguard, so all three of them appear to be equally present inside the story and basically as characters. And also he mentioned how Cade has a big role in the endgame, which you do know. Of course, he's still a vendor you can interact with, so we know you do get treasure maps from him which give you extra loot from the same locations that Flashpoints are currently on for the week. We're still not exactly sure if the whole Hunter, Titan, and Warlock Vanguard kind of loot system works in the same way in Destiny 2, but besides him being a vendor, it seems like they're going to be pretty even in terms of the Vanguard, no one's sticking out more than the other. Of course, he is more present inside cutscenes because he is kind of the funny guy. He's basically comedic relief inside Destiny, so other than that, he's actually pretty even compared to Akora and Zavala. Now, Luke also talked about the second Gunslinger tree, the bottom one we haven't played yet, and he thinks it's one of the biggest orb-generating subclasses in the game, which is really interesting, and definitely a change when it comes to Gunslingers, who are normally not that great for helping the team. Now, he talked about how this tree is for the first time enabling precision damage for the Golden Gun, so when you pop it, each hit increases the damage of the next bullet. So we'll have to test the numbers, but it could be a case where that third shot might be close in terms of damage to the Celestial Nighthawk exotic from Destiny 1, but it also generates an orb every time you hit something in the head, so you don't even need kills for this stuff, just hits. So take a boss, hit him 3 times, you do big damage each time, and also generate an orb for your team, so this sounds really good. And then on top of that, each hit also charges your super faster, so this has a really, really good cycle to it. Each hit is just going to get you a ton of stuff, more super energy, more orbs, and then even more damage as well. So this is 100% the Gunslinger that I want to play personally. The top option with the 6 bullets doesn't really interest me that much, but this one I'm definitely a fan of. So that's been a roundup of all the things that I found was really interesting from this video. As always, if you enjoyed the video, a like rating would be much appreciated. If you want to watch the video uploaded earlier today about the Trials of the 9 leak and a bunch of audio files that leaked, there is a ton of stuff and also spoilers in that video. But if you do want to watch it, then you can click the image on screen right now. But as always, subscribe for a bunch more Destiny 2 videos. Got a lot of stuff on the way, so don't miss out. And I'll see you guys next one.